Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're gonna wait maybe 2-3 more minutes to give everyone a chance to join. But yeah, thanks for being here. Usually what we do is, we have a quick introduction round. Maybe everyone can just quickly say their name, why they're here, what they study, or so on. And then we go around and everyone can ask a question, and then that way, sometimes maybe your question is already answered by somebody else's question. But yeah, we typically keep it around 45 minutes. And yeah, usually we get the most important questions done that way. Maybe we can already start with an introduction round. Ditte, do you quickly want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Ditte. My bachelor partner is going to be here in a second as well. But we both study philosophy and economics. And we're primarily interested in the way that the Mud Jeans business model is based on the circularity. So that's probably what we're gonna be asking the most questions about, so that you're prepared.
Nice. Yeah, maybe quickly about myself. So usually this is done also with our CEO Bert, but he couldn't join today. But me myself, I'm Lea. I'm the CSR Officer at Mud Jeans, so all things related to sustainability. So if you have those questions, definitely shoot. And then when it comes to the business questions, I'll try to do my best. Yeah. Natasha.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I am currently doing an executive master at the UFA, and I am looking into key factors that lead firms to achieving their net zero goal, and in particular also how the industry that they're operating in could impact that. And I saw that the session is recorded. Are we getting the recording afterwards as well, by any chance?
They're always uploaded to our YouTube.
Okay.
On usually so after the session or latest tomorrow by midday. So you can definitely access it there on the Mud Jeans
cool.
channel. Yeah.
Thanks.
Aranza?
Yeah, hi. I'm doing my bachelor's in fashion and textile technologies here in the Netherlands. And yeah, I'm just doing my thesis about sustainability in the denim industry. So I'm just looking to look at what you guys are doing and how sustainable it is, like all the circularity and everything you're doing. So yeah.
Lovely. Kira?
Hi, my name is Kira, and I'm doing fashion business and development at Amfi here in the Netherlands. And I'm currently writing my thesis about degrowth in the fashion industry. And yeah, I'm curious how Mud Jeans approaches this. Yeah, that's it. Short.
Interesting topic. Marie?
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you. My name is Marie. I am currently based in The Hague. I study and work here in the Netherlands since 2018, but I am doing my master degree from a distance. My master is from the Plymouth University, which is also related to Schumacher College. And the master is called Ecological Design Thinking. And all the questions that the other girls have are quite relevant to me because I'm interested into exploring the gap of the existing research, because there is a lot of research about the textile industry, sustainable businesses, but it's very fragmented at the moment. And I'm also interested into placing it back into context. So building case studies around Dutch brands that are sustainable. And I'm trying to understand how a sustainable business comes into being, what are the opportunities, what are the barriers. And I think the business model is quite relevant. For me, the culture around the business, everything kind of relates. So I'm just trying to bring everything into context and have a wider perspective. So
nice. Sounds good. Then Feline.
Hi, my name is Feline. I'm doing my master's in business administration at the UvA here in Amsterdam. And I'm actually doing my research about the influence of blockchain on business model innovation in the textile industry. Blockchain has a lot to do with traceability, and that's why I also chose Mud Jeans as like one group of interest and company of interest for my thesis.
Nice. We just before this meeting had a discussion about blockchain and
Oh, really?
that, so it's quite interesting. Josephine. No, maybe she can't hear me. Josephine, can you hear me? Okay. Rens, I saw that you just came in. Maybe for context, we're just doing a very, very quick introduction round. You're the last one. Maybe you can briefly say, yeah, what you do, why you're here. No.
If it's for Josephine, I think it's because she's sitting at a closed office room where you can't really have a sound on, like a library kind of room.
Okay.
So you can't really speak here.
Okay, no problem. In that case, let's start. Ditte, do you have your first question maybe?
Yes, I think, and I speak on the behalf of Josephine as well, but we are very interested in which ways that Mud Jeans differentiates itself from a common business model, like the way that you conduct business and the way that you have business. How is that different if you think in this circularity economic model that you base? You have the 3 pillars that you base your business upon. I think that's basically what we want to dig into.
Yeah, that's quite a big question because I feel like I could list so many things. And if you had a look at our sustainability report, I don't know if you saw. Yeah, nice. We also definitely have a lot of those points in there. Yeah, speaking very broadly, of course, a circular business model is very different from a linear one. I don't know if that's also what you're interested in terms of, okay. Well, yeah, I think for us, the biggest thing is having a circular business model, meaning we don't produce a product, don't think about what happens to it after the end of its life, but we actually take it back, we take that responsibility, and we are able to create a new product from those old products. And also the way we then produce those products, yeah, it doesn't just have recycled content in there, but we really also try to question every step of that production process in the supply chain on how can we make that as sustainable as possible. So looking at, innovative production methods and new dyeing techniques and kind of trying to bridge that gap between making a beautiful product that people would love to wear, but also making it, have a lower environmental impact. I think that's a big one for us. So yeah, that whole aspect of extended producer responsibility is, a big one for us. We also use post-consumer recycled content, so really the old jeans from people that have worn this before, because a lot of businesses in this, if you're looking then more specifically at the sustainable fashion realm, say they use recycled content, but often this is pre-consumer waste, which is of course also good and important, but way easier to use, has been done for ages because it also makes economic sense. But this is not long-term or what we feel has the biggest impact, because if you use post-consumer waste, you're really doing that whole closed loop of getting that product back after it's been worn, and you're really avoiding that waste from going to landfill or being wasted. So yeah, that's a big one for us. I think that whole, is that enough for yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks.
Nice. Okay. Natasha.
Yeah, so I also looked into the sustainability report, and of course, you guys are already highly committed to net zero and even already carbon positive, but it was specifically mentioned that you want to continue working on this. And then I was wondering, well, in theory, you could also just say, oh, we achieved our goal, let's drop everything, right? But that's not what you're doing. Instead, because you feel like you may have to put in a bit more, because other companies and other industries might have it a bit more difficult to achieve this goal, or what is the driver behind this? Just because you're good for the environment, or because you think otherwise the goal would not be achievable for us as a whole, basically?
It's less so that last part that you mentioned. I think it's really more about, I think, looking at carbon offsetting, very controversial topic, and understandably so. If everybody just offsets, we're really not solving the problem here. We need the action now, and reduction has to come before offsetting. So reducing the environmental impact that you have as much as possible before looking to offsets. And that's really also the kind of the motto that we want to, or the value that we want to go with there. So of course, it's nice that we offset and are in that sense carbon neutral, or even carbon positive. But we do these life cycle analyses. We work with our supply chain partners to really then focus on how can we reduce the environmental impact of our product further and further. So in that sense, that's really the thing for us. We want to focus on that reduction, less so than the offsetting.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so.
And do you think it's more difficult for other industries outside of retail? Of course, you have the big ones, right? The energy producers, but generally speaking, how would you see, how difficult is it for you in the retail industry to achieve this goal?
Well, I guess if you're looking at the retail industry, there's a lot of companies that are still very much behind on looking at this, and there's a lot of companies that say, hey, we're carbon neutral, and really are relying more on the offset part. And like I said, I think that's problematic. So I think, you could say it's more difficult, especially for companies that were kind of built on that whole premise of linear economy and waste and fast fashion, because they kind of have to turn around their business model completely, right, to make profit in a different way that is very much the opposite of how they started. But I think possible, it just takes some more effort maybe to question that business model.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Aranza?
So now you were talking about the post-consumer like fibers and fabrics and everything. So then I was wondering, how do you guys maintain like good quality and like all the standards like a normal pair of jeans would have with recycled? Because like once it's recycled, and also the fibers are shorter, and then because a lot of companies don't do it, because then you get like a lower quality. So then how do you keep that? And also if they have elastane, how do you recycle that?
Where do I start? Okay, so in terms of ensuring our quality, so maybe for everyone else, for context very quickly, if you mechanically recycle fibers, meaning that whole like traditional way of shredding is a fiber into smaller pieces and then making a fiber out of that again, that process makes the cotton fiber shorter. So that's why it's a problem to use, for example, 100% post-consumer recycled cotton in that way typically, because then you get a less durable fabric. So what we do is, of course, we do the standard product tests to verify that our products have the quality that we want from them. And I think that's also the reason why so far we've been able to reach a max of 40% post-consumer recycled cotton in the jeans, because we noticed that if we go beyond that, we really can't ensure that anymore. And then it's also about, you want to use the post-consumer content, but it's also not going to be valuable if the product breaks in a week. So we kind of had certain quality standards that we said, okay, until here but not further. So we are confident in the quality of the jeans at this point. But the reason, we tried a different approach now. I don't know if you read about a Road to 100. So that we kind of combine this mechanical recycling with chemical recycling. And there you can have cotton fibers that are really as long as you need them to be, because you're kind of breaking down that fiber into a pulp and then making new fibers out of that. And this has also proven very promising in terms of maintaining the quality and the strength, durability of the product, because you can mix those mechanical fibers that really still have that, authentic denim feel to them with those chemically recycled fibers that are very long and durable also. So that's kind of how we do it, but we're also constantly looking at different sources for or different techniques for recycling, and how can we further improve the quality of that post-consumer content.
And for fabrics that contain elastane in them, how do you?
We limit ourselves to a maximum of 2% elastane, because we say that if we go beyond that, it contaminates that recycling process. But with the amount that we have and some of our jeans that have that stretch, it's actually not a problem. The main partner we work with is Recover, and they are able to shred it if it has a maximum of that. What we also do is take back the jeans from other brands that our customers send to us, and in that case we also say, okay, let's we only take a minimum of 96% cotton, because if you go beyond that, you really cannot guarantee that recycling process is going to work smoothly. But also, if you say, okay, we're only using 100% cotton, then you're excluding all of these jeans that would end in landfill, because it's just a fact that people still want stretch denim, and you can't just disregard that whole section. Marie?
First, I want to say that I'm very thankful that we have a diverse group, because half of the questions I have are already covered. So this is
nice.
helpful, and then it's put into context. So that's really, really nice. But I would, because you spoke a little bit about the business model, a little bit about barriers, which I was also interested in. But I would like to go a little bit back to the business in terms of the values that you hold as a business and how they reflect into the everyday decisions. You covered a little bit about how you chose to what point to not go beyond, because that would affect the quality. But if you can talk a little bit, if it's in a different context, in terms of how you make decisions in the day-to-day business, and how the values influence that, and how also the purpose of the business plays a role.
Yes, I can. Do you maybe have an example of one kind of area that you're interested in there? Because I feel like it's a very, very broad thing to discuss.
Yeah, maybe I think it will be interesting if you talk about growth, because as a sustainable company, there is always the question about growth, degrowth, growth within a certain tight measure. So that is one example.
That's a nice one. I think growth, especially as a sustainable product company, is a super complicated topic, because kind of growth overall in the bigger sense really kind of goes against that whole idea of sustainability and conserving resources. But the way we kind of go about this discussion usually is we definitely have a cap to how much we want to grow. I don't think Mud Jeans wants to become the next huge global brand in that sense. At the moment we're definitely focusing on Europe, but what we kind of all really agree on is that what we want to do is we don't want to encourage unnecessary purchases, but we want to have a bigger part of that pie, meaning if people buy a Mud Jeans instead of a blank, whatever unsustainable jeans, that to us is a win. So we kind of want to, of course, grow in that sense, because at the moment we're really a small player. If you compare numbers to any other denim brand, it's not going to be it's not going to be that high. So we say at this point, we definitely want to have a bigger part of that pie, and in that sense, have that positive impact. So yeah.
Can I just ask a follow-up to make sure that?
Yeah.
So you would say that you grow in order to be of a better service and to contribute to a positive impact, but you don't grow just for the sake of growing as a company. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Mudjeans was always based on the idea of kind of, yeah, sounds extreme, but revolutionizing the denim industry, right? Like we always wanted to be that better alternative and show that there's a different way to do it. So the concept was really never, okay, make this the biggest company possible, but show that it can be done, and we can only show that on a larger scale than we're at right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Feline?
Yeah, so I read a lot about like traceability in the sustainability report of Mudjeans, and you already do so much about it. But of course, I'm interested to hear your opinions and like the barriers and the opportunities that you see of blockchain, because it makes it like very fact-based, but I don't think you implement it right now. So I was curious to hear your thoughts about it.
We do implement it. We have a collaboration with TextTracer. I'm not sure if you know them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how we also use blockchain in that way. But yeah, it's again, I feel a complicated topic, because on the one side, all of Mudjeans really believes in the relevance and importance of transparency and traceability and having this decentralized data and really enabling the customer to see how their product was made and really understand that also in a reliable way. So to us, it was definitely something we wanted to do and we wanted to offer our customers. So the way it works, we have a QR code on our products, and you can scan it, and then it shows you the production journey of that product. So different supply chain partners, you can see pictures of them, you can see a description of an address, you can see the map of where your product went until it was done, and you also see the environmental impact of each product, and then compared to a more understandable reference. So for example, we always say we save so and so much water, but then showing that in bathtubs and things like that. But yeah, so I think to us that was really important, because we want to, kind of also stand for that message of customers understanding how and where the product was made. But of course, there's also that aspect of the energy that blockchain needs. And, in our case, we don't have huge amounts of data, but I think that if everybody switched to blockchain for all of their supply chains now, again, maybe difficult. So it's a topic, that's why also we discussed about it today. On the one side, we really stand for all that it enables, but on the other side, it's difficult in terms of energy consumption. So those are kind of the two sides of it. And then what else did I want to say? I forgot now, but I'm curious, what do you think about it in terms of sustainability?
Well, I think in terms of sustainability, it has lots of opportunities for brands, but I also think it's a lot of admin extra for brands, and like they want to like make it more visible, but in the end, it's also for the consumer to see. Of course, you give them a QR code so they can see like what the journey of their garment is, and I think if the consumer sees the added value of this blockchain enabled innovation, it's good for a brand. But if they don't see it, like it doesn't add really much value in the end for the brand in terms of the consumer buying, especially in that case. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
It's difficult.
I think for us it was also never really viewed as a means to sell better, or to encourage that. For us it was really more, okay, we see ourselves as circular front runners or sustainable front runners, and Also really having that radical transparency. That's something we also wanted to show. And I think for us, you know, we have such a short and transparent supply chain already that it maybe doesn't add as much information as it would for others. But then there's also bigger companies where I feel that it's really shocking to see that they don't know anything about their supply chain or who their partners actually are, how they work. And there it's maybe more admin, but also good for them to actually dig deeper into this, what they've been completely ignorant about before.
And do you know until what tier do you see in your blockchain? Is it like until like tier 3 or?
Yeah, well, for us, at the moment, we don't have the cotton producers, for example, in there, but we start with our recyclers, we have our fabric producers, we have, our tier 1 supplier,
Yeah, okay. Thank you, good to know.
Kira.
Thank you. Mudjeans is, of course, a very mission-driven and brand that's focused on both environmental and social sustainability, and creates a very big positive impact. And I'm curious how you combine this with your financial stability and viability, because I can imagine that being a sustainable fund runner also comes with some challenges. And how do you approach it, and what barriers did you see there?
Definitely. I think if Bert were here, he would probably be able to answer that one better. But I think, you know, we can definitely, how do I say that? So, like I said, the goal of creating Mudjeans was never really to be that company with the hugest margin or something like that. The priority for us has really also always been having that positive impact. And it definitely makes becoming profitable more challenging. It also means you have smaller margins because you want to pay fair prices. You want to ensure that you have those innovative production methods and that you have that organic cotton, and all of these things really cost money. So it's definitely something that isn't easy. But I think, we kind of try to be, for example, clever with how we use how we work with our expenses. So if you look at our marketing, it's really, other brands, for example, spend a lot of money on influencer marketing or bigger campaigns. It's a budget that we don't have at this moment. Our marketing budget is maybe comparatively quite low. So we really try to be creative and inventive about how we market, for example. But overall, I think it's something at the moment where we're reaching a point where we kind of say, okay, we call ourselves a scale up now, and we want to work on a larger scale there. But it's definitely been a struggle, I think, for the first 10 years of Mudjeans. But I think the fact that we're still here as a brand, whereas others, recently there's been a few companies filing for bankruptcy, and so to us it's really nice to see that we have that proof of concept. But to answer your question shortly, yes, it's not easy to be profitable if you're looking at all of these things. Yeah,
I can imagine. And can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that you, within your business, you first prioritize then, like, for example, the values you have with paying suppliers and choosing the organic cotton variant before like your own
before our financial, definitely. I mean, of course, both things play a role. If we see that something would make us bankrupt to go ahead with it, we can't do it. But generally, I think we would have a way bigger profit if we didn't prioritize that, and that would have been easier. So definitely, it's the priority. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Josephine, I'm not sure if. No, okay.
I think we'll just go.
Then you can go ahead again.
Yes, so if you there as you just mentioned, there are some businesses that have hit bankruptcy. Can you name some of the factors that have been determining in terms of Mudjeans having been successful with having this alternative way of doing things, because as you say, it does have a lot of challenges, and it's more expensive than conventional business doing or conducting. So what are the factors that have determined this success in what you do?
I'm gonna also try to answer this as much as possible. Bert is probably also better in that, but looking at, that I think a big one for us is that we have really close and trusting relationships to our supply chain partners. So that works both ways. We don't cancel orders, but they're also lenient, especially at the start of Mud Jeans. There was really a lot of trust there, and like beginning production, despite Mud Jeans not being that big brand. And we also have partners that usually work with much larger quantities, but that want to support us. So I think, having that really trusting relationship with their supply chain partners, that's probably a big one for us. I think especially also in COVID times, what's also good for us is that we still have, most of our jeans rely on that never out of stock principle. So they're part of a collection where we don't constantly change those products to new products, but we don't do those discounts at the end of the season and so on. And that way we can really estimate quite well the demand of a product, and also have shorter lead times, because we don't have to set up a new product with our supply chain partners every time. We can quite spontaneously then place those new orders when we see or estimate that demand. So I think that really avoids that overproduction there, or like miscalculating those aspects. And I think also our investors are very understanding of the mission that we have and very supportive of that. So I think if you were a company that had investors that really didn't share those values, then you can have a very pressured relationship there, where it's really also always about maximizing that profits, whereas ours have been very cooperative and understanding, or even supportive of that, and have really let us implement our long-term mission there.
Can I ask a follow-up for that one?
Yeah, a quick one.
Just to make sure that I understand it correctly. So a factor can also be that the surrounding environment that you're kind of depending on are also supportive and share the values and mission that you have.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Natasha.
So I would be interested in what recommendations you would give a new company in your industry, so in the retail industry, that wants to contribute towards net zero. So from the beginning. Oh, sorry. Did I cut off?
Yeah, now you're back.
Okay. Should I just repeat it? I don't know when I cut off.
I still heard tips for other companies, and then it was gone.
Yeah, so what recommendations would you give a new company in your industry, so in the retail industry, that wants to also contribute towards net zero? So from the start of that company, they already are committed to this goal.
If Bert were here, he would say don't do it. That's always his tip, because it's hard, it takes time, and it's really not easy. But I think I would say, what I've definitely noticed, it makes such a difference whether you incorporate those things right from the start, or you think about it as an afterthought after you've already set something up. It's incredibly hard to change those things around. So I think before you start something, really look into all of these aspects, see which values you want to represent there and how you can make that happen. And ensure that you have, I don't know if that's the correct way to say it in English, but that you have a long breath that you can kind of push through until you achieve that. So I would say really set up a good plan on how you want to have a positive impact in that way, or how you want to achieve that net zero before you start, and set up some kind of system where, yeah, that works and you can still reach your profits, but don't have to compromise too much on those things.
Yeah. So if I understood correctly, that also means you think it's easier for new companies if they achieve, like if they decide for it from the beginning rather than already establish their concept and then say, oh, now we want to do net zero.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to your suppliers that you're choosing and the products that you want to make, think about those things before you make those decisions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Aranza?
Yeah, so you guys being like all the sustainable brand and everything, how do you avoid falling into greenwashing? Like you guys being so transparent and everything.
Also good one. I think it's definitely a big part of it is close collaboration between the marketing and the sustainability team, because yeah, it's quite natural that those things sometimes diverge from one another, right? You know, one is about selling things in a beautiful language and making people excited, whereas the other thing is really about being factual and not misleading, and even in an unintentional way. So I think, you know, there's a lot of me saying, okay, let's rethink the phrasing of that, but also the marketing team being very, yeah, also educated in these things and understanding that you have to think about, you know, when it comes to making environmental claims, you can write something down, read it over and see if everything in there is really factual, or if you're overselling something and making it sound like something that isn't really truly understandable for the consumer. What does that mean, you know? So we also set up that rule of saying, okay, if we have this new pocket flasher, for example, on the back of our jeans, if you buy them and it will say something sustainable jeans, but just saying that doesn't give any information to the customer what that means. So we also have some small notes underneath that on how they are sustainable. But there you also, again, really have to compromise. Another thing that's, yeah, how do you say that, where the marketing and sustainability part clashes a bit, is marketing has to be short and quick to explain it to the customer, whereas sustainability really needs also explanation and context to not make it misleading. So again, I think there, you know, that collaboration between those two teams and discussions and reiterating things is really yeah, the biggest part of that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Marie?
I was wondering, going back to the context and how sustainable businesses emerge, it also has a lot to do with the context in which they emerge. And I wanted to understand, what do you think were the opportunities in the context of the Netherlands, how it was an enabling environment for the company to become the company that it is today, and what are the external forces that played a role into enabling this to happen?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, you know, obviously I can't compare our country to every other country, but, you know, looking at regulations as a whole, I think at the moment there's quite a lot happening. That's definitely also enabling for companies like us that maybe weren't the case, you know, a few years back. So if you look at, for example, greenwashing regulation, the lack thereof was really not enabling at all for businesses like us, because if you look at us versus bigger fast fashion companies, and then you also compare the marketing budgets that we have, but we're still, or we had still been entitled to make the same claims in a sense. Nobody was really policing the claims that the fast fashion companies were making with their big budgets and their larger voices. They could claim the sustainability of a product just as much as we could, without really there being consistent evidence for that, or having some kind of you know, rules about that. So that's something we've really struggled with, where we were also constantly asking ourselves, how can we distance ourselves from them? Of course, we can educate on greenwashing and the problems of this, but we can only educate so many people, and only the people that are somehow in our reach. So we were really reliant also on regulations coming into play there, and that's something that we're really happy about now as well. Then also when you look at things like extended producer responsibility, we always said like we were hoping that people would copy us faster even. Of course, that's not enabling to us per se, because it makes us unique. But yeah, we really saw that it doesn't happen at this point, and that it also wasn't encouraged to the extent that would be helpful. Because if you look at post-consumer recycled cotton and then regular virgin cotton, you're going to spend less on the virgin cotton. So it's always the more economic choice to go with the less sustainable material, meaning it was, you know, for us economically, not a good decision so far to go with the more sustainable fiber. And that's something that I think is still a point of discussion right now. If you look at the VAT, so like the taxes on the product, you're essentially you're using an old product to make a new product, and then there's the same VAT on this again, which has already been paid for part of that old product. Why not remove that part and make it less and incentivize the use of that recycled content? Because essentially that's what it needs. It needs to be cheaper for the larger scale, for all businesses to implement it. So yeah, I think that's just two examples. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Feline?
Yeah, my question was like, how do you see the future for the textile industry now? Also looking at new rules and legislation by the government. I heard a lot of like the Dutch government coming up with new laws on sustainability for fashion brands in particular, and France already having some really strict rules. So I was wondering what your thoughts on this are.
Yeah, a little bit, I think I already said now, but then if you look at, for example, so yeah, greenwashing regulations, I think we're very hopeful that those are going to be quite impactful on the industry, and that it's going to be a way for truly sustainable businesses to kind of set themselves apart from others, but also for the bigger ones to have a reason to truly become sustainable and be able to prove those things.
Yeah.
Then when you look at things like extended producer responsibility, so taking the responsibility for your product after it's been worn, yeah, they're in the Netherlands, and also EU-wide regulations are coming up. And yeah, we think it's really exciting. Like I said, we were surprised or disappointed that not more companies started to do it the way we do it. It's still a very limited number of companies that take back their old products. But by these new regulations coming up, I think we're quite hopeful again that will become implemented on a bigger scale, or that this will also lead to more circular design of products. Because if you have to carry the responsibility for your waste, that obviously incentivizes the reduction of that waste. And then you're going to look at, okay, how can I make this product less wasteful?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Kira.
I'm interested in knowing if there are any ambitions within Mudjeans to produce more locally, for example, in the Netherlands, and why yes or why no?
Definitely. I think for us, we always want to produce or operate as closely to home, being the Netherlands, as possible. The reason why we have our main recycler in Spain is because we just didn't find the right partner in the Netherlands as of yet, but it's definitely something that we're looking into. So yeah, to keep it brief, definitely we're interested in that. We do keep an open eye to that. So we kind of want to work with the most sustainable and best supply chain partners, but also keep it as local as possible, so that you kind of always have to compromise between those things. But definitely, yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how many questions are left. If there's anyone with an urgent question, or I can try to answer some questions really quickly. Yeah, are there a lot of questions left?
I just have a question if it's possible to contact you later, or maybe participate in another of these meetings if we have follow-up questions.
Yeah, so if you want to participate in another one, it's always the first Monday of the month.
Okay.
At 3, and then otherwise you can also send your questions via email to info@mudjeans.eu. If they don't know the question, they can check with me, and I can also get back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Anyone else got a last question?
I have one last question.
Yeah.
And it's more from a systematic point of view. I just wanted to ask, you see a lot of companies that become or start as a green company, and you see a lot of companies that are trying to make the transition. And I was wondering, what is your opinion about of how you become a sustainable company, or how you transition? Where would you start? Would you start from the business and how the business is made? Would you start from the processes in terms of production, or would you start with the product? And where could a problem in the way you approach becoming a sustainable business might occur?
Yeah, that's a tough one, I think. Yeah, a good one. I mean, it really depends on the company, I would say. Overall, of course, I think the whole management would have to have a sit down and kind of see, how do we do this not to maximize profit and to sound like a sustainable brand and for it to be good for marketing, but how do we actually do this in an authentic way? Because only if everybody, you know, that's in a powerful position in that company is on the same page and wanting to do this in an authentic way, only then it will become exactly that. I think if you're looking at maximizing profit, then there's always going to be another question, you know, where it gets to the stage of, okay, should we do this? It's more sustainable. Oh no, but it costs too much, so we're not going to do it. So it's not going to be successful. So I think for the leaders of the company to all be on the same page there and to prioritize that and really come to a common value proposition is probably the most important thing. And then, yeah, the problems that you would encounter, I think, economic problems and logistical problems. So it definitely will require a new briefing of the team and for people to truly understand that value and how to implement it. It will definitely take new expertise for a team that's transitioning, and yeah, also patience and willingness to experiment and kind of adjust. Yeah.
Thank you.
Natasha?
Yes, on something that you said before, you mentioned that, well, carbon offsetting is controversial, but yet you still decided to do it. So I was interested in the reasons behind it and how you make sure that you have the right partners with this.
Yeah, I think it's controversial in the sense that I don't think it's good if companies rely on offsetting to reach their net zero. Like I said, I think the main thing is really reducing your impact and not losing sight of the importance of that versus making that claim. So that's kind of what I mean. I do still think that offsetting, you know, is valuable because you're contributing to, you know, often also quite great projects. For us, it's also wind farms that we support with it. And I think, you know, offering that support and offsetting, even if it's, you know, down the line that this will have the positive impact, obviously still has a positive impact. It's just not enough to rely on that. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right.